Hi, Michael here. Welcome back to the channel on March 28th with 12:45 p.m. in the afternoon Brussels time. European markets have been open almost 4 hours now. Obviously, US will open later today, and today we'll be getting rid of 100 and plus shares. I hope even a little bit more. We'll see exactly how much they are later, and I'll explain to you what it actually means that we're getting rid of those shares after we've had a look what's going on in the market. This morning, everything in Europe opened very nice and positive. All the markets opened in the green with very nice gains. By now, Amsterdam, Brussels, and Helsinki are showing slight losses, but fortunately, the futures for Dow are still in the positive. So let's hope this positive sentiment continues in the US later in the afternoon, and that we have nice positive closing in Europe and in the US today. There is still a problem, obviously, although it looks like the major traders are putting themselves asleep because there was no bad news over the weekend, and no bad news all of a sudden then obviously is good news. We don't seem to expect any fundamental issues in other banks in the very short term, but obviously that is something that is based on absolutely nothing, except that everybody keeps on telling each other that things are okay now and that the worst is over. But that is, it's absolutely based on nothing. On the contrary, there is an issue. There is an issue that we still face high inflation, and as you're aware, central banks and governments try to battle high inflation with increasing interest rates to cool down the economies. And as it turns out, it's exactly these high interest rates, these increasing interest rates, that are putting a number of these banks into trouble, being used as they were to almost free money over the past years. They see obviously now the premiums that they have to pay as an insurance against defaulting on their own debts are increasing, and in some cases these premiums are increasing up to a level where these banks can no longer pay these premiums, which in turn, and of course, creates panic with the public, who then withdraw their funds or move them to another bank, which means that these banks run into liquidity issues and then they fall over. That's exactly what's going on. So we should not be kidding us that there is no problem with banks. There is a fundamental problem with banks, and apart from their behavior, that has always been the case and will always be the case. Nothing we can do about that. What we can do something about is what we're in control. And if we look at the dashboard here, we see that I've kept the file up to date up at this moment up to a little over 71%. This takes me 3, 4, 5 hours a day to do this, and the reason is that for a large part I'm dependent on manual work to keep the data up to date, and that is becoming an issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of a number of shares, and particularly I'm going to get rid of most of the shares that have a rating of reduce. Now, you may notice here on this column C, imported rating, some of these shares actually have a rating mentioned to them, and others have the word pending mentioned here, and that's exactly what the issue is. These shares that have on column C an actual rating mentioned means that I can update these ratings automatically. It doesn't cost me any time. I don't need to do anything for it. Contrary, those shares that have the mentioning pending in the column C means that I really need to go into my brokerage account for each and every of these files, check what the consensus rating is, put it then in here, and only after that I've done this, I can start checking the first resistances. Now I can calculate most of these first resistances again also automatically, but not all of them. So that's why I've decided to get rid of most of these 172 shares here that have a rating of reduce. First, I was thinking of getting rid of all of these reduce shares, but then I figured out I'll probably get rid of those shares that have a rating of reduce, but also a current price of less than $100, so that I'm only keeping the big tickets in there. And that should save me a lot of time every day, meaning I can focus more on those shares that have a rating of hold or accumulate. Now you may argue that if I get rid of these shares here that have this rating of reduce, that I'll never know at which point they get an upgrade to hold, or what happens not so often, but it does happen if they get an upgrade from reduce to accumulate. That is true. I'll not know that, and I'm not going to let that keep me awake at night. I'm a bit speculating that if they follow the normal process of where they get upgraded from reduce to hold, and then at some point from hold to accumulate, that somewhere in this process, I'll pick them up and I'll identify them. Maybe not. We'll see. Let's sort this file appropriately. So obviously, I want to sort. Why is this not showing here? I want to sort this share first on the rating here. And I'll do that descending so that reduce actually shows up first. And then I want to sort it on the current price, which is this one. And let's see what that gives. So indeed, so we see now the first shares here in the beginning are all the shares with a rating of reduce. And here we see them ascending in their price. I'm going to get rid of all of them with a price lower than $100, but I'm not going to do that blindly. I'm still going to browse through it to make sure that there's no shares that I'd still would want to keep. A lot of financial services shares in there. A lot of transport shares. Fortunately, not too many healthcare providers because I like to keep them in the watch list. See Morgan Stanley there, Northern Trust, Raymond James, all part of the good old mafia family. All right, so it's 139 shares that we'll be getting rid of. That's going to save me a ton of time every day. Let's just delete them, get rid of them. There we go. And then we'll do a sort again. Voila, and let's have a look at the dashboard and see what the impact is. So indeed, we've got rid of about 139 shares. So this is really going to be a big time saver, which means I can focus more on the sweet spot. 6 shares in the sweet spot today compared to yesterday also. 6, there's actually a number of them, most of them actually, that are in the sweet spot today that were there yesterday, like Exelixis, Form Factor was there, PDD was there, Oracle was there. So the only new one today is Owen Semiconductor with a nice spread of 11.93%. In all fairness, I did not do my my check on these first resistances and hence these spreads today. So don't take them as the truth, the whole truth, or nothing but the truth for now. But at least it shows a little bit of an indication that things are, first of all, quite calm. If we see the top movers here only between brackets 8%, sometimes we see here movements of 20-25%. That has not been the case over the past days. So this shows that things are still a bit cool. And the comparison between the sweet spot of today and yesterday shows that things are stabilizing a little bit. Yeah, that's what it is. Not much news other than I'm going to try and save myself some time. And with that, that brings me to the end of this video for today. Thank you very much for joining and watching today. We'll be back tomorrow with hopefully again some good news. Thank you very much. Bye.